Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see it? Okay, cool. So just to kind of come back to the core syllabus and where we're at. Last week, we talked about kind of getting your website planned out, what pages you want. This week, we're really going to focus on page setup and content planning. And then your homework, and I'll get into this more at the end, will be to kind of write your content and select your photos. Keeping in mind that that's always a work in progress, so you don't have to have it perfect, but getting started. And then from there, we're going to jump into, I'm going to touch on SEO this week as well. But next week, we'll focus on implementing it and getting everything designed. And then we'll talk about adding forms the next week. And then the last week will be our Q&A session where I'll have some time slots that you can sign up for so we can kind of get your website where it needs to be. Okay, today is about function and not design. And so today what we're going to do is take that, the site map that we created last time, and we're going to put it into practice. And so I've built in time to the class today where we can do that together. I'm going to walk you through some of it, but I think it's really, if you can be logged in, if at all possible, if you can be logged in and do it, you're going to have a million questions and I'll be here to answer them for you. That's the best way to kind of learn, is just get in there and do it. And I know the fun part of website development is the colors and how we're laying things out, but we really want to make sure it's functional first, and then we'll go and make it pretty. The back end of each platform, and I meant to delete Squarespace from here. I'll be talking about Wix today. Jay, were you using Wix? Did you decide to go that route? Okay. It's always open if people want to use another platform. I just, for the purposes of this class, I'm focusing on Wix, but I can always, have a conversation with you after if you choose a different platform. We're going to go through the back end. And so I'll open my Wix account here and we'll kind of go through all the features of the back end and kind of just explaining what that is and what's available to you. And then we're going to set up all the pages today. So we'll go through the menu, navigation structure, all those pages you said you were going to create, we'll get them created today. And we'll get the header ready, the footer, we'll go through all of this. I want to jump ahead here to touch on Canva a little bit. I like to use Canva. It's a free, there's a paid version and there's a free version. You definitely can get away with the free version for purposes of your website. And it is really great for resizing and optimizing photos for web. So it will allow you to export different file types. I always use, for web development, we're going to be using a .png or a JPEG file extension for your photos. And then we're going to want to export them at a lower quality without compromising the image. So you'll have to play around with some of the quality controls in there. But what that does is when you export them at a lower quality without compromising the integrity of the image, you're going to allow your site to load faster down the road. And so a rule of thumb that I was taught is to go with about 0.5 MB, which is equal to 500 kilobyte size of an image, if possible. That's not always possible, so you don't have to reach a standard of perfection here. But when you're uploading images that are, 2 MB, 5 MB, 10 MB, it can really slow down your site and create a poor user experience because your site's just not loading for people. It's too photo heavy. And you haven't optimized your images for web. So I like to use Canva for that. It has great, you can go in and customize the size and get it sized just right for your template. And then also you can play around with the export size, which is fantastic. You don't have to go into Photoshop and do that anymore. I want to touch on today about search engine optimization, just because your homework coming up is going to be writing your content. And there's a few things that you can do ahead of time to kind of be thinking about SEO and getting your content ready for search engines. So just a brief overview of what SEO is. SEO essentially, it stands for search engine optimization, and it deals a lot with keywords. So when you go to Google and you type in best place to eat in Butte, Montana, it's going to populate, likely it's going to capitalize on the word eat and the word best, right? And Butte. So it's going to use those three search terms, and it's going to look for all of the best eateries in Butte. And how does it know that it's looking for the best? Likely someone wrote a review that has the word best in it, or your website actually has the word best in it, or someone made a social media post that has the word best in it, and then it also said Butte, Montana. So essentially, keywords allow us to train search engines such as Google and Bing to know that our website is the one to list with certain search terms. The cool thing is, back in the day, you used to have to do, and by back in the day, I mean like 2 years ago, you used to have to do a lot of research on, okay, what are my keywords? Oh my gosh. We now have ChatGPT and AI that can take a lot of that legwork out for you. So you can type, and I'll show this later, you can type into ChatGPT, give me SEO keywords for a photography business in Butte, Montana, and it will spit them out for you. And that's just going to save you. You can research your own if you don't want to use artificial intelligence. That's totally fine. For me, it saves a lot of time. It's already there. I can put it in. Keeping in mind too that artificial intelligence is not the end all be all of everything. So you'll want to go through the list and make sure it's not missing obvious keywords, but it can be a really great starting place. And so you'll want to also think about what this is saying here, what does your industry's online landscape look like? What keywords are being used? Again, now that we're in the age of ChatGPT, we kind of don't have to worry about researching all of that so much anymore. SEO also deals with how your site is laid out. So creating a page structure that's easy to navigate is really important. You can get search engines look for something called a bounce rate, meaning if someone comes to your site and they immediately are like, oh God, this is not what I was looking for, and you click right off of it within like less than 5 seconds, you're going to get dinged from a search engine because, oh gosh, the search engine, it's your keywords, everything came up, and then your site, that's not what people were searching for. And the algorithms know that. So that will lower your rankings. So you want to make sure that when people land on your site, they're reading, yeah, I'm a photography business in Butte. I am, I'm thinking of the soaps that you would be selling, Heather. They're seeing that you're a soap business right off the bat, that's not something that they have to dig around to find, so that you're making the user feel like, yeah, I'm on the right website. And this is pretty easily accomplished by just putting, your title of your business right on the header. And we'll kind of go through how to stack some of that, but the longer people stay on your site and the easier it is for them to navigate, they're not going back and forth between, oh gosh, that's not the right page. The more that, the higher Google's going to rank your site. And then when it comes to getting your pages ready for search engine optimization, we'll talk about a heading structure here in a little bit. There's also something called a meta tag description, which the cool thing now is Wix has a lot of SEO features built right into it for each page. So you used to have to go back in the day, and by back in the day, again, 5 years ago, go in and manually put a meta tag in, an HTML tag that would have a description of what you want a search engine to display. Wix has a great feature where you just click in the SEO tab, and I'll show you this, and you're going to type what you want what you want it to show, which is so great. Takes the coding side out of things. The same thing here with, you'll want to be linking internally on your site. So you'll want to make sure that your navigation has the right links and that they're not broken, that, you can get around the website well. Your body content has those keywords in it that we talked about. And then your image attributes, this would be what you actually named the image, but then there's also a feature in Wix where you can go in and kind of describe the image. This is really important for the Americans with Disabilities Act to be ADA compliant with your website. You want to be someone who has a screen reader who is visually impaired, if their screen reader just reads image 575 too far, it's not really explaining to them what's in the image, and that actually breaks the law with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So not that you're gonna like get fined for it, but you could. I've never seen it happen, but we want to be accommodating to those who are visually impaired, and what a screen reader is going to actually be reading. And then your URL can actually impact your search engine optimization. So if you're selling, like I'm thinking of Terry, and maybe Terry's not on the call, but Terry's bookkeeping business, right? If her URL, which again is the domain name, if her URL is something like Garrison Girl 234 or something, I'm just throwing it out there, and it doesn't have anything to do with bookkeeping, like you might want to put what you do in your URL, right? You don't have to do that if you're like, for example, bldc.net. That's not really, what is that? That's just a random collection of letters, but it does correspond directly to what we are going to have on our page, right? Butte Local Development Corporation, and then in parentheses we're going to have bldc.net. So it does make sense. So you'll want to make sure like the title of your business is actually your URL, if possible. It's just going to help your rankings. And then we'll get into the heading structure and how search engines rank your headings. And then, some other things to keep in mind with search engine optimization. There's always a way to kind of let Google know that, hey, this is the right site to go to by some of these outside links. So in a press release, make sure you're linking to your site. In a directory listing of, businesses in Butte, you'll want to make sure that link goes right to your site. If you're hosting an event, these are all linking externally to your site is going to boost your search engine rankings, just because Google knows, yeah, this is that business. Same with social media. If you're posting on social media, always put a link to your website in a post about your business, right? It's just one more avenue for people to be accessing it and externally, where they're not necessarily going to a search engine, but they're being given a direct link from an outside source. And then like anything website development, you're gonna have to just tweak it as it goes. The keywords might change. What's in one day might be out the next day. A new business might come in and they're ranking higher than you. So it just becomes about tweaking and changing things as you go. So with ChatGPT, when you're doing your SEO keyword search, it's really helpful to get a list of keywords that are going to be relevant to your website and your business. So again, I would go to ChatGPT, and I'll just show an example here. The cool thing about keeping a list handy is here's all the ways that we can inject keywords into our site. So you're going to want to put them in the page title. You're going to want to put them in the page URL, which is different. So we'll talk about this when I actually show you what's in Wix. But for example, bldc.net, I always make sure those URLs aren't just random, right? I've got bldc.net/dinner, and that's the URL I use every year for our annual dinner, right? It's got the word dinner in the URL. So you're not just saying like a random thing. You can make those really long if you want, just kind of cumbersome for people to type them in. So I always try to just keep the one keyword, right? Dinner. Put them in your meta description, and I will show you where this section is in the back end on Wix. But keeping your keywords consistent, just kind of, again, training the algorithm of Google that, yes, in fact, this is what people are searching for. You'll also want to put them in your H1 text. Heading level 1 is what that stands for. H1 is the top heading level that is read by a search engine. And you can go all the way down to H6. I'll show you that here in a second. But H1, that's going to be the most important text of your site. And so you'll want to make sure that that text is reserved for, you'll want to put a keyword in there. You'll also want to use them in your page's content. So that's why I'm bringing this up now. Your homework will be to kind of write your content. So do that keyword search first, have your list available, and then create your content using those words. And then also with building links to your website, using those keywords in the link, as we kind of talked about here with the URL. And then just monitor your rank on Google. I was working with a business here in Butte. They offer a specific type of service, and they were required by the service that they offer, they were required to be higher up in the rankings. So to boost their rankings, she had all of her employees go and Google her business and click on it every day for like a week. And it boosted her rankings, right? It was training the algorithm to like get up there and do it. And I was going once a day and clicking on it too. And now I looked and we were like number 7 in the rankings. We're number 2 in the rankings now. So I mean, it's just kind of a, for lack of a better word, it's kind of a crapshoot of how it's going to work out, but there's some tips and tricks too. So if you are struggling with your rankings, you can always talk to me about it and we can kind of figure out a game plan. Here's some of those HTML tags. For the purposes of this class, I'm not going to go into HTML coding because Wix, you don't need to know that stuff anymore, which how great. All that knowledge I learned in college, just throw it out the window. We don't need it anymore. But it is important to know when you put a title into a page, it's going to have, this is an opening tag, and then I don't have one over here, but it will have a closing tag, and this is heading level 1, right? So it's telling the code to read this and display it as heading level 1, which we'll tweak the settings for each one of these in the next class. But you can see here, this is how Google's bots read your text and know what's important. So you'll want to put in your heading level 1, you only want to have per page, you only want to have one H1 tag per page as a rule of thumb. A lot of people are like, but that's the size that I need it to be. And you can always increase the size on an H2 tag, right? But you want to make sure you only have one H1 tag on your website. If you have multiple, Google's bots will get confused and it won't know what's the higher ranking. So it'll essentially just skip it over. It's too much information. It's not going to read it appropriately. So you just want to have one, and you want it to have those keywords in it, and be the most important thing that you're wanting Google to read. You could put H1 tag in this size of font and it really wouldn't matter because Google doesn't read, the bots are not reading the visual part of it, they're reading the code. So just keep that in mind. Those bots can't see, but they can read. And then you go all the way down, heading level 1, all the way down to H6. And then you have a P, which is a paragraph heading level. And so it's always a good rule of thumb when you're creating your content for next week, flag that which will be in your heading level structure. So the most important heading is H1. And then as you know, good design practice, and we'll go into what good design practice is next week too. Good design practice, right? You're chunking your text out, you're making sure that you don't have everything in a giant font that nobody can read. So you'll want to use a heading structure. And then, underneath your heading level 2, you might have a paragraph, right? And then if you've got a lot of text, you might go down to heading level 3. I rarely see it where people go all the way down to heading level 6. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have all of these on a page. That's just what's available to you. And write your H1s well. Instead of, on a page, this is a classic example on someone's website, they'll have about me, With Google reads 1,000 about me's. So put your name in there, right? About Kayla Lappin, or, about Melissa Wanamaker, or about your business, right? Put your business name. When you're putting our team on a page, right? You'll want to put the team at BLDC, right? That way people, again, just helping to boost those rankings. And then the same goes for images, right? Beautiful picture of a fish. Someone's screen reader could read image 4356.jpg. We want to help the screen reader out. The best way that I was taught is instead of making it all one word, and instead of using an underscore in between the words, to use a dash, and that actually gets boosted higher. The way that it was explained to me is the bot will read the dashes a lot faster than an underscore. So, Rainbow Fish, Jefferson River, Twin Bridges, Montana is a lot more explicit and descriptive of the image versus what it might have come out of your camera as. Plus, when you Google a rainbow fish, one of your images might show up as, simply because of the description. Again, Google's bots cannot see this image. They can only read what information you're feeding it. So if someone searches Jefferson River, Twin Bridges, Montana, rainbow fish, this image is way more likely to pop up. And we talked a little bit about this. I recommend using Canva when possible to resize images. And this will be something for next week. Don't necessarily need to worry about it now, but just keep in mind. You can download them as a PNG, and then where it says compress file, and I'll go through this next week. That's where you can do a little bit lower quality image. And I always do that, open the image up and make sure it doesn't look like garbage, because sometimes you're compressing it and we don't want to do that. We don't want to compromise the integrity. So you might just have to play around with those settings. This is these dimensions. I'll save this for next week. The next thing before I dive into the back end is in website development, we have a term called a wireframe. And this is something that I encourage each of you to do when you're thinking about the next design of your site. So today we're going to set up the page structure and the menu and everything. And then I want you to be thinking about where everything's going to go. So as you're thinking about your content and you're writing, your about me section and your services, I encourage you to actually get a piece of paper out and draw out where you want things to go. This person was very exact with yours does not have to look this pretty, but it'll help you kind of figure out where I want a video up front. I want a testimonial here. There's all kinds of ways to do this. I used to have to do these in Photoshop and be really exact with them, with the measurements, so that our web developer could slice them up and code them to this exact thing. You do not have to do that. But just be thinking about where you want things to go. So yeah, those are and you'll notice that when you set up a wireframe, you're not just setting it up for your desktop. The cool thing about Wix is it's going to translate most of it to mobile. So you probably don't need to actually draw out the mobile one unless you just really want to. But Wix is going to automatically translate it to mobile, and then there's a little tab in there where you get to kind of have some control over it. Not everything translates perfectly from desktop to mobile. That's called responsive design, by the way, in case you hear that term being thrown out there. Responsive design just means it responds to the size of the device. And so you'll see here, this person went a little nuts and they even designed it for a tablet. We don't have the option to see what it looks like on a tablet. So I always recommend, as a rule of thumb, when your website's done, pull it up on a tablet for yourself and kind of just make sure everything's in the right spot, and do it that way. But we'll get into that. So before I jump into the back end and really share my screen with the back end of Wix, I'll just touch on our homework. And then I would love for everyone to kind of pull up I'll go through Wix first, and then I'll invite everyone to pull up their own Wix, and we'll get started on creating our pages and stuff. So your homework, I recommend just, this can be in a text document or a Word document or a Google Doc. Write out some of your text content, giving thought to those heading level tags. What I didn't put in here, and I should have, is the keywords for ChatGPT, or like doing your own keyword research. And I'll make sure that's in the email so that you have a reminder of what your homework was. Sorry, I didn't put it in here. And then identifying your photos, naming them, and then you don't have to have them resized, but just having them ready, even if this is just like 1 or 2 photos, so that you can get a sense of what it is to next week we'll have something to work with together. And then I do recommend getting a Canva account. Again, it's free, and I will kind of go through some of those features briefly at next week's class. So now I'm gonna jump right in. Any questions before I jump right into the back end of Wix? Did everyone get a chance to set up their Wix account? Okay. If anyone didn't, let me know. I'm gonna stop sharing because I think I gotta exit out of this and share my.
Yeah, I didn't set it up, Kayla. You said
That's
you
okay.
will. You said.
Yeah, I'll help you. We've got a Headwaters one. Melissa's gonna build out her brownfields page on the Headwaters website. So
Yeah,
there's
the
that.
Wix just takes me to like pay for this, or this.
Yeah. And as I mentioned in last week's class, you're gonna get a million marketing emails over the next 4 weeks inviting you, and they're gonna say it's only lasting a week. So you better jump on it now, which is just, there's one every week. I promise. Or there's one every 2 weeks at least. Just be patient. If you feel like if you're like, no, I really want to do this, yeah, great, go ahead and sign up. But you definitely don't have to right off the bat. I do encourage you getting into the platform and making sure it's something you want to do before you spend money on it. Okay. I'm going to show this ChatGPT thing really quick. So I'm just going to say write an SEO keyword list for a soap business. I'm gonna just call it like handmade soap business. Trying to remember where you're based out of. I'm just gonna say Butte, Montana for now. Okay. So it's gonna spit out a bunch of keywords of what people might be searching. And I think we can even make this. I don't know. I think you could put Google in there. We'll see if that changes anything. Sometimes it's in the art of the ask to ChatGPT. It's looking like probably the same thing. There's a couple things different. Anyways, worth checking out. Saves you a lot of time in research and trying to figure out what your keywords might be. Google actually used to have a tool. They might still have it. Yeah, Google Keyword Planner. What's what it used to be called. This is really if you're going to be running ads, you want to have that's called search engine marketing. SEM. SEO is a little bit different. SEO is like optimizing your website. Search engine marketing is really optimizing your ads. So I'm not going to get into that because it's a whole other topic, but there are SEO keyword research tools. If you just put that in the search bar, there's free ones. There's ones that you can pay a lot for. I recommend just using ChatGPT, to be honest, because it's free. Okay, so when you log into Wix, you come to this will be kind of what comes up. Now, I manage a few things here. I manage the Headwaters RC&D. I'm working on a new website. I manage Fly Butte and then this Opportunity Zone website. For the purposes of today, I'll just go into this one. This is a new website I'm creating for BLDC, and I have like done nothing other than selected the template. So, did everyone get a chance to select a template? No. Okay. And that's totally okay. If you didn't get there, you can always select it. See, look, oh my gosh, 50% off. Wow. Okay. That pops up all the time. So Let's see. When you select your theme and you get into this part of it, right? So I'll go back just so everyone can see. I could hit create a new site here, and it's gonna like encourage me to use AI. I'm not about that. So, but you can select a template here. You're never married to a template. So say you get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst decision ever. Just start over. It's not the end of the world. But for the purposes of this, I'll just go to the one that I already selected. So that, again, that would be how you would go in, create a new site, select a template, start there. When we come in here into this, it's going to bring you to all sorts of like, they have like this setup wizard that kind of walks you through getting everything set up. They have a section in here where you can connect your custom domain, publish your site, and then they're going to help you with your SEO on Google here. You can go through these steps, but you don't have to. Over here is on this left side bar is basically how you're going to navigate to where you can actually get in and edit your site. They don't make it like the most apparent. You can click design site here, will take you to the same place, or if you hit site and mobile app over here, edit site will take you to the same place. So just, they have a couple of ways to get to the same thing in here. We'll worry about SEO later. For now, I'm just going to click into this edit site, and it's going to bring you into the website editor. As we're coming in here, what I want everyone to do today is just get your pages set up and your navigation somewhat how you want it. That's our goal. So over here, it tells you which page you're on. It tells you that I'm viewing this in the desktop mode. I can switch it to mobile if I want, and then it will show me how this page is looking in mobile. And then this is the URL, right? So this is like my free site. So it's always going to have like who created the account.wix site until you connect your domain. If you already bought a domain, again, I think I touched on this in the last class. If you bought a domain off of like a GoDaddy account or something else, not an issue. You can connect it. They'll give you like step-by-step how to do that. And I can help you through that as well. You're going to edit your DNS settings. So we'll worry about that later. For now, just build it on your free domain and don't pay for anything until you have it how you like it. Over here in the add elements section, you can add all sorts of things, different text, right? It's already got heading levels set up for you. I'll show you how to edit these globally. But for now, you can kind of just see some of the features in here. Has anyone gone in here and kind of played around with things yet? No? Okay. You can add images, right? And the cool thing, Wix has a lot of free stock images you can use. You can also, I think they're connected to Shutterstock. You do have to purchase those, but it just kind of gives you some more options. There's buttons for days. And what, all kinds of options. So I won't go through all these. I encourage you to kind of look through these elements. If I click one of these, let's just say I want to add a button. What it's going to do is add it right to the page. And then I love Wix because you can just put it wherever you want it. You don't have to code that. It's incredible. We've come so far. And it really makes it easier for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with the code or how to get it to be in the right spot to just be able to come in and drag and drop. It's great. I'm going to delete it. Over here, you can add different sections to your website. So we won't get into this too much today, but for example, say I want to add business info section, right? We've got all kinds of templates here that you can customize, and you can even see the ones that kind of come with your theme. Maybe you want to add a services. You can customize all kinds. You can also just add like a blank one and do a basic section that you might add. Everything is customizable, so you can always customize the image. Don't get married to anything like that, but you can always change it. Okay, this is what we're going to focus on today, which is your site menu and the pages. So when you log in here in a minute, you're going to navigate to this page section, and you can see that the way this site is built, it's a single page site. So if I go to preview this, and you can choose how you want your site to be. Some people really like a single page site. So I'm previewing this, and if I click on services, it doesn't actually go to a page, it just goes to that section on the site. You'll notice here, oh, let me go back. You'll notice here when I'm on the pages, these have little anchors. Okay, that's because way back in the day when we used to have to code things, those were called anchor tags, meaning you can actually put a jump link on the page to jump down to that section on the page. Okay, that's historically called an anchor tag. You can also, what I recommend doing, because this is not the best way for, I mean, it's personal preference. I think having more links gives you more SEO opportunities, right? If you have a page that is like your, bldc.net/services, it's not going to just, you can put a whole new H1 tag on that page. Whereas if you just have it all on this, it's only going to read the one H1 tag. So, I mean, some people are like, no, I just want one page. That's it, which is great. It will kind of hurt your search engine rankings. So I do recommend setting up another page. So you're going to come down here and we're going to click add a page. Now you can pick a design for these, or you can just do a blank page. And you get to title it. So let's just say that for BLDC purposes, I know that we're going to have a membership page, right? So just put that in there. And the cool thing about Wix is it's automatically going to add it to your menu, but maybe you don't want that page on your menu. Maybe that's like, oh, my membership page is only going to be for members, right? So site pages, there's a lot of options here. When you click on the 3 dots, there's SEO options. You can change the page background. You can hide it from the menu. Yeah, no, that's a member area. I don't want it to be available on the menu, but I can have a link to it that I can email out to people, right? There's all sorts, you can make it a sub page. So it could be, you know what, I do want it available on the menu, but I want it underneath the category of, sorry, I'm trying to find that show and menu, right? So when I pop out here, it would be like a drop down that would kind of show up. So you would want to set it as like a sub page. You can make it a main page. Today we're just going to play around with all things that. And if you want to come in here and you're like, Kayla, I don't want to get all my pages set up today because I want to look through these templates and make sure I'm picking the right one. I don't want to do it from scratch. Like, don't feel like you've got to get it all done in this class. I just want you to do at least one page together so that when you go do it down the road, you're not texting me and asking how to do it. So let's have everybody log into your Wix account and kind of get to this point. And Jay, I think you said you hadn't picked out a theme yet. If you want to, even just for the purposes of learning how to do things, if you want to just select one and then kind of go in there and figure that out just for the purposes of learning and then delete it later, maybe we can just do that for today. And then you'll have more time to pick one that you actually want down the road. And Melissa, do you have the login for the Headwater?
I think I'm logged in.
Okay.
But I say create new site, is that right?
I think
Because I'm seeing Headwaters Brownfield. Oh, I started creating a new one. That one's the one I started creating and got scared. And then there's the Headwaters RC&D that I don't want to mess up.
Go ahead and for the purposes of this, let's go ahead and do that one that you created, the Brownfields one, and we'll just kind of get you familiar with setting up pages and that, and then we could talk about where we want to set it up. Yeah, does everyone, let me know when you have,
But it's asking me about making a custom domain. I might have,
just click out of that. In Wix, it's all about the art of the click.
okay, it says, how would you like to design? Let Wix create for you, customize a template, or back to dashboard?
Just pick a template for the purposes of today, and we'll probably end up deleting it, but that way you can kind of get a feel for what to do. Then when everyone's in there, go ahead and just start creating, create at least 2 pages if you can. You can always go back and delete them, but I would just want to make sure you are understanding how to get there and what to do. If you can't get there, let me know. How's everybody doing? Able to get in there? When you've created at least one page, let me know, because then I'll move on to kind of showing you some of the other features. And Wix likes to ask a million questions, so if you're getting caught on some of that, I get it. Cool, thanks, Heather. Angela, how's it going?
I think fine. I clicked create a page and then it did all this weird, like finishing up step 3 of 5. And now there's like all this stuff written in there. So I'm wondering if I screwed up and like
Oh.
had AI create it.
Oh, that's okay. I don't think, I mean, even if it is, you can always go in and change it. So sometimes
Okay.
it's helpful for AI to go in and fill that out. If
Okay.
you want that, I mean, that's totally fine. Yeah.
I don't know.
You can't mess anything up. You can always
Okay.
start over. You
Okay.
can always delete. Yeah. The
Okay.
cool thing
Sounds
is
good.
that Wix has this little button up here called undo, not as your friend. So
Very good. I'm having trouble finding the site and no, what is it? Like the site and mobile app you said?
oh,
Like
okay.
the left side of my page kind of disappeared.
Oh, weird. Okay. Does it give you this option like to switch?
Maybe I'll try it.
Well, and honestly, I recommend worrying about mobile last. So don't
Okay.
worry about it too much today. Get everything the way you want it in a desktop, and then we'll figure out the mobile stuff.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Jay, how did it go for you?
I'm not sure because I'm trying to
Okay.
find what it looks like. It asks me all the questions and
Okay.
then so I'm like looking at the templates now,
Oh, cool.
Right.
Okay.
trying to pick a template.
Oh, yeah.
I
No
think.
worries.
Yeah.
Melissa, how is it going for you?
Yeah, it's not going well, but I'll figure it out.
Okay. Is it asking you all those questions?
No, but it picked a template and I don't like it and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, maybe just keep it for the purposes of today, and we can delete it later. And Heather, feel free to, like, if you have more pages you want to add, feel free to go ahead and add some of those. But in a minute here, I'll kind of show how to, like, the header section and the footer section. We'll kind of work on getting those pieces built out. And I'll just kind of show you how to get in here because it's a little wonky sometimes in Wix, the art of the click. So when everyone's ready, I might just move on to that, if that's okay with everybody. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, you have what's called a header. And then you have, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of your website, this section is called your footer. And you'll see that Wix actually labels these footer right there, you'll see. And then if I go all the way, I scrolled all the way back up to the top, it'll say header up there in the corner. You can edit a million different ways in Wix. They've got this quick edit section. They've got this over here, the settings. More stuff to change. I can change the design of the header in here. Essentially, to me, the most important components of a header are your logo, or if you don't have a logo for your business, like your business name, and then also your menu. Okay, you could have a call to action button, but that's like, if this stuff isn't there, you're in trouble. You need people to know who you are, and they need to know how to get around your site. When you edit a header section or a footer section, it's going to edit it globally, meaning any other pages that I'm editing, it's going to change it on those pages too. Okay, the header is like set for the entire website. Same with the footer. You can choose on certain pages to hide the header and the footer, but we'll get into that later. So if you're like, I really don't want that header, which I don't know why you would ever want to do that. Some sometimes when you're doing a targeted marketing campaign, you want people to do a specific action, so you might hide the header of your website. We'll get down to that. That's like, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm gonna hit this quick edit section. And really, what it's gonna encourage me to do is edit the menu, okay? Kind of already went through this. But I don't like how this is showing up. I don't know why BizBud is all the way in the corner. I'm gonna unpin this element because I want to be able to move it around freely. Let's just pretend I want to put it here. Okay, and actually I don't want that text at all. So I'm gonna delete it and I'm gonna add an image and I want that to be my logo. So just for the purposes of this, I'm just gonna add a little image in here and pretend that it's the BLDC logo because I don't feel like finding that on my computer, the right one. But maybe I want this to be my logo. Let's just pretend that says BLDC. Okay, now it made my header really big, right? So there's all kinds of ways to edit in here. I'm gonna make that smaller. I don't like how big that made everything. Let's also say I don't like this purple color. I want to come in and change the purple color. So I'm gonna go to this little button. There's all kinds of settings in here. So you can go to like set as an advanced menu. We don't want to do that. I can manage the menu over here. I can change the layout. There's going to be different, all kinds of different ways you can items fill the whole menu. I mean, there's a lot of options in here, but for the purposes of now, I can go in here and I can change how the design of everything is showing up. I encourage you to just honestly, don't worry about making a mistake or, oh God, that looks like crap. I'd rather you get in there and get it, muck it up so that you get familiar with things, versus being afraid to like, oh gosh, I messed it up. Because we can always add a menu back. Can always, nothing is permanent. You can even come down here and like really get down to changing things around. So yeah, I encourage you before next class to just start playing around in Wix and start clicking on things and deleting things and just kind of getting familiar. Now, when I come to here and I go to this other page that I created, you'll see that the header stayed the same. Okay. And then if I want to edit the footer, I can make it big. I can add elements to it. The cool thing about like if you come over here and hit this quick edit feature, I can go right in there and change the text. If I had any other elements in here, it would also like do a quick like change the image out. Like if I had an image in here, like you can see here, if I click on in the quick edit, it'll let me just change that image right out, which is kind of nice. If you want to change the design of your footer, you can, it's all about the art of the hover in Wix, right? So if I'm hovering here and then I come down here and it's like, oh, where'd that go? I have to actually have it selected. I had to click it twice and then change footer design came up. So just keep that in mind. If you're not seeing a setting or you're not seeing something, make sure you have it selected in Wix. And then you can kind of play around with all the options available to you. So again, I had to click it twice to get that to show up. Same with up here. I bet if I click it again, yeah, change header design. Kind of a pain, but the art of the click, you'll get used to it after a while. And you'll see like, I want to move this button and I can't. Sometimes they're pinned so that you can't move them. So you can always hit unpin. So if you're like, oh, I couldn't figure out how to move the button, check to see if things are pinned. Any questions? Before I just kind of let us go for the night, is there anyone unclear on what next steps are?
So is it easier to use the template or is it easier just to start from scratch?
Yeah, that's the question. It depends. There are templates that you're like, wow, that's beautiful. I'm gonna go in there and customize that. Sometimes the template though gets in the way. And I mean, it's kind of like get into the template, see if it's working for you. Otherwise, starting from scratch, because they have all these built-in features on there of like you can add a section, customize your pages. I mean, you can get away with a blank page as well. So kind of just your preference. Sometimes I like to have it laid out for me so I can go in, especially if I'm working, as a web designer with a client and I need to get it done fast. I'm like, yeah, let's just use the template. But for you, you're going to have a little bit more time. You're not trying to bust something out
Right.
in a day. And so it kind of is your preference of what you want to do.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone have any other questions? Before we meet next week? Okay, next week, like I said, we're really gonna focus on the design aspect and making it pretty. So if you can have content ready where we can play around in just even one page worth of content, that'll be helpful. And I will say this, the content part is the hardest part of all website development, right? I've worked with companies before where we've got everything designed for them and they will spend 4 to 5 weeks just writing their homepage content because you're tweaking it. So if you get stuck, honestly, even just having a couple of paragraphs that we can play around with so that a website is a work in progress. Cool thing about a website is it's not like a business card that you printed and you're stuck with 500 copies of it. You can go in and change it at any moment. So even if we're just going to play with fake text, a lot of times we'll do that in website development. The Greek lorem ipsum text, we'll throw some of that in so that we can just mess around. Yeah. Okay. Well, if anyone wants to stay on and work, I will be here helping you work. Otherwise, you're free to jump off. And I'll see you next week.
Thanks everyone for joining. Sorry, my camera is not working today. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can do that.
I've seen some faces on here today, like some people were confused by some things and everyone's learning so much. Maybe you guys want to say either one thing you learned today or maybe one thing you want to learn next week, anything like that. I can pick on people too. Is Heather, you're first on my screen.
I was afraid to mess around with Wix when I picked up my template, but now it makes me feel better that I can do whatever and it can be undone.
Cool. Yeah, we can always get elements back. You're like, oh gosh, I deleted a menu. And I don't know
I
how to-
actually made like 3 different ones and I deleted them all because
Okay,
I was like, oh my gosh. And so now I'm zoned in on the one.
cool. And
Good.
that's really common. Yeah.
Melissa?
Kind of the same. I was so scared of messing it up and doing it wrong. And I did a template and I hated the template, but I just grabbed it and pressed delete and it disappeared. And now I'm empowered.
Good.
Cool.
Jay?
Well, I am just starting with the template, so we'll see how that goes. And I will tell you that they're wedding photography. I have no wedding photography, so maybe I'll just steal theirs and put it on my website.
There you go.
And lie to everybody.
Angela?
Yeah, I was confused, but I figured out how to make a menu thing. And then I had 2 abouts and I'm like, oh my God, I broke it. But I deleted one and now there's just one. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
A lot of the templates will come with like pre-stocked pages. And
Yeah.
so sometimes what I'll do, unless I'm like, oh, I love the design of this one, sometimes I'll like literally go in and delete all of them just because I don't want to deal with all those pages. I'll make my own. So, I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. But yeah, and you'll create an about page and it's like, oh, they already created one for me.
Yeah.
So
And I like theirs. So that's wonderful.
yeah, cool.
Well, I will follow up with an email, same as last week, with the recording, whatever Kayla's notes for the homework, just so there's reminders for you guys to have. And if you guys have any questions throughout the week or stuck on something, don't feel anything, reach out to us. Don't stay stuck on it like Kayla always says.
Yeah, I think I said that in my last class. Never spend more than 15 minutes on anything. Always ask
Yes.
for.
Well,
If you,
is there
if you
any
could send the presentation too, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I'll do
Okay.
that, Jay.
Is there any other questions before we go for the night? Okay, well, I hope everybody has a wonderful week and we'll see you